Now, before we get fully started, I want to point out there is a bug or a glitch on the Hisense U75QG. And this bug really destroys your white balance. After you've already gone through and calibrated it, it's going to go back to being really blue. The fix is to go right now into your picture mode, go to something, any other picture mode, and then toggle back. And then your white balance will be fixed. I don't know why the hell this is even a thing, but that is something that I did want to open the video with, that there is a bug on the Hisense U7QG as you just saw, and this is how you fix it. All right, to the left we have the Samsung S95F. To the right we have the TCL Q75, or rather U75QG. So the winner of this comparison is going to be the Samsung S95F. Albeit it was very, very difficult to arrive at that point because, as you can clearly see, the U75QG is like right on its ass. And I'm not joking. I mean, it's like so close. It could have gone either way. And again, I did see in the comments, somebody said that I was like all over the place. And again, I just want to quadruple down, if I haven't already, by telling you my position on the Hisense U7QG or U75QG has been the same. It's a tremendous TV. Now I'm gonna go ahead and kill all the lights and make this a dark room environment, just so the sole purpose of us seeing what's actually going on the screen and not being distracted by anything else. And you can see they both have tremendous color. The brightness though on the Hisense is just way better, and it looks absolutely magnificent. Yes, the Samsung can get way brighter than the Hisense, but at a detriment that would cost you contrast. So it's really not worth it to go the extra mile on the Samsung and get the extra brightness. And again, Hisense just has that detail, that raw pop, and that raw color. So again, similarly to the last comparison against the Samsung S90D that I did, if you haven't seen it, go on the playlist or go on the backlog and go and find that video. The reason why this TV does ultimately lose, those dark scenes get really hazy and you're not going to be able to defeat that. Now again, there are those that would kind of have almost like a, well, no shit, it's not an OLED kind of mindset, but even for a QD mini LED, the black level performance is pretty hazy compared to something like TCL that does have better black levels. Where TCL becomes not worth it is it just has shitty color. It's a very weak, low-end color, budget brand color, and there's no getting around that. So that's where, again, Hisense will be the more dominant. I mean, I've got to say, though, it's identical to what I'm getting in the bright scenes on, you know, the S95F, and even excels like now. Like, it has moments where it definitely excels way beyond, and I'm not even joking, like way beyond what we would normally be accustomed to getting. And I think that's attributed to all the things that Samsung has done this year and Hisense have done this year to bring out quantum dots. I think it's great that they both compete this way, but Hisense really is in a league of its own as far as mini LED. This is essentially a quantum dot OLED performing type television for bright scenes, with the dark scenes performing more in line with what we had out of, I'd say, a higher end full array TV, because it doesn't give me that feeling of a QD mini LED like TCL, like I was saying, because black level's again pretty weak. But again, you're paying $699, and at that point, do you really have any real room to complain when it's giving you the picture of a $3,000 television? I've compared it against the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II just to prove that it is a $3,000 picture. I've compared it against the S90D, and now I'm comparing it against a $2,499 TV, $2,100 TV on sale. I mean, it's insane. I mean, look at it. You're talking about an S95F, the flagship Samsung Quantum Dot OLED for 2025, and then here's the Hisense right next to it. I mean, the amount of detail alone should tell you that this TV is not a normal TV. By anyone's stretch of their imagination, this TV is not normal. We don't get budget TVs or mid-range TVs that perform like this. We get crappy, low-end, very garbage performance at this price point. And instead, we're being treated to exceptional clarity, exceptional contrast. And again, if it were not for the black level issues, this TV would have beaten literally every TV so far that I've put it up against, because its performance is that good. And unlike the Hisense U8QG, it doesn't target the highest level of brightness. So it actually brings the average picture level down to something more palatable and more balanced, which is why it looks better than the Hisense U8QG from my experience. That, And the 55-inch of this particular display is a VA panel, and the 55-inch of the step-up U8QG model is an IPS panel, or ADS Pro, which is still IPS. And that's why it looks so much better. And honestly, I don't get why anyone would have such a strong performing television as a flagship and then ruin it with IPS picture quality. I think that was a very stupid decision from Hisense. But again, I'll digress and talk about the TV in front of me right now, the U75QG, to which I can just safely say this. It's impressive. Like, I don't care what walk of life you're from. You can't watch a picture like this and not be impressed, because that's all it's going to do is impress you. Because as I look at it right now, it is hitting with the big boys. 100%. It totally is. And again, anyone trying to claim that it's not, like it's just a budget TV or that's impossible, look at the image. The image to the left is a flagship of flagship picture quality. Right up there with the G4 and the Bravia 8 Mark II, the S95F. And look at how it's going down right now. I mean, I can't say that what's happening on the screen isn't dramatic. It's pretty dramatic, I'm not gonna lie. The difference is between the two. And I've got to say, the detail is one thing that time and time again I do appreciate. Now, I'll pause right here because you do need to see this. I'll open up my camera sensitivity to light, known as ISO, just so you can see what I'm talking about when I say it's a bit hazy. It is a bit hazy. You can see that haze right over there. It's not as pronounced right there, but again, lowering it down to what I see, which is probably about like there. Again, it's there, it's just not as visible. And that's the thing that really fucks everything up. The black scenes get hazy and it's just not as enjoyable, I would say. And again, that's the part where you have to have somebody be transparent with you about these things and tell you like, hey, it's not performing great. Again, haze in this example as well. Open up the camera sensitivity to light so you can see that. Okay, look at all that haze. And it's a lot of it. I mean, that's a lot of haze. A lot of haze. And that's what I mean. Like when you have images that are coming out of black, like that background is black and this image needs to come out of black and distinguish itself, but still maintain shadows and details, it fails. It really struggles. As you see, it gets really hazy. Again, it doesn't get like bloomy or cloudy, but it does have that annoying haze that literally nobody wants to see in their image. And that's why I tell you, this is not going to beat something like the S95F. It's just not. And again, that's where a lot of people chime in and they go, well, no shit, obviously it's not going to be a QD OLED. But I would challenge that. I really would, and say we have seen so many strong TVs over the years, okay? I mean, so many strong TVs, wildly strong TVs. I'll leave it right about there because that's where it is, okay? And in the course of my time reviewing TVs, I don't think I've seen a mid-range mini LED this strong ever. Ever. Like even LED. LED has never hit at this level. This is OLED picture, like for sure. In bright scenes like this, forget about it. It edges out or matches what we get on OLED. It's just those black scenes are coming out of black scenes like I was mentioning. That's where you're gonna have the problems. All the problems in the world. But again, the depth, forget about it. Look at that contrast advantage over the Samsung now. And that's where I get a little salty because I just wish they would have buttoned it up a bit more. Now there is a bit more banding as well on the Hisense than what we have on the Samsung, so that's going to be a negative in the column for the Hisense. Now, just for people who who are saying, well, you're making the Samsung look dimmer on purpose, it's not actually that dim. No, you're totally right, but this is what happens when you raise the contrast up too much. It just gets way too bright and it's not balanced. I mean, I'm going to try to balance it out here just off of guesstimations, okay? Because this TV really does not do well handling brightness at all, okay? And I'll say right about there, that's about as good as we can get it, maxing out our contrast, which will give us the max peak luminance. And you'll see that in some scenes, it just becomes downright disastrous. Raising brightness is not your friend on this TV. The Samsung does not like it, okay? And I mean, you can do your best to balance it out, but you're going to have to sacrifice brightness somewhere, because if you try to rock the full brightness, you're going to get slaughtered, you're going to get crushed, and it's not going to be great. Like now, I'm losing a lot of contrast comparatively to this. A lot of contrast. Like a lot of isolation and a lot of depth. That's the cost of raising your contrast. Yes, highlights pop and have that feeling that feels really good, but it doesn't have the depth behind it to the degree that it would have if you would have lowered the contrast. And that's where, again, I get a little salty because it didn't have to be that way. Like, why am I sitting here having to pick and choose? That's my thing. Like, I don't want to have to sit here and choose between one extreme or the other. I want all the color. I want all the brightness. I want everything to feel cohesive and like I'm actually buying the step up product that I bought. And unfortunately, more often than not, that is just not what ends up happening. You end up with something that is just overly bright and it doesn't really feel as good. Now, again, I balanced it out, I think, decently enough. So it does have that balance. But if I were to raise the brightness to its max potential, it would just absolutely wash everything out and clip everything. Which again, that's not going to help anybody out. And I'll probably do it later on in this video, but for the sake of just showing you how beautiful these TVs are, I mean, look at that. That's gorgeous. I mean, I think I'm just going to let it play out. But honestly speaking though, I really love what I'm seeing come out of Hisense. I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen a Hisense this strong literally ever. So when I see it, I just kind of geek out a little bit. Like, you know, they were capable of this back when nobody believed in them. Like, back in 2019, they had beautiful picture quality. And back then, everybody was writing Hisense off as this budget brand and all but saying to stay away from it. And now here we are in 2025, and Hisense is the brand to beat. I mean, they are the brand that's sparking all of these top end. I mean, you're talking top of the cream of the crop when you talk about picture quality. And it's sparking them. It's beating them. It's spanking them. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to lie. It's spanking them pretty bad. Because price to value ratio, these brands have nothing to offer. I haven't seen not a single LED from LG worth anyone's time. I haven't seen a single LED from Sony worth anyone's time, despite claims that the Bravia 9 is so amazing. Go watch my videos on that. That was one of the flattest TVs I've ever seen in my entire life. That TV was not good at all. And then you got what? The Samsung, literally all of their QLEDs went to shit because they had QD OLED. And now they're trying to rope you back in with RGB mini LED. Oh, but it just so happens to be 116 inches and $30,000 as well. It's like, get so for real right now. Nobody's buying that. And here comes Hisense saying, yeah, we have an RGB mini LED and it's also $30,000. However, if you don't have 30 grand, we still got you. If you've got $600, we got a good TV for you. That is such a valuable proposition value to me, to be able to say that, okay, yeah, I'm not rich like some of your customers, but I'm still valued with a beautiful image and celebrated with a picture that will last a testament of time and spark absolute monsters way above its price range. Like, no one is saying this, and it's bothering me. I'm not gonna lie. It really bothers me that I am the only YouTuber that has the integrity, that has the decency and the just candor to tell you you are getting so much more for your money on Hisense than you are everywhere else. Because while yes, ultimately the Samsung S95F, yeah, it does win, it was not by a large margin. It was by a freaking hair, okay? I mean a hair and a technicality that OLED blacks on images that come out can be more accurate and look better and occasionally can give you more contrast. But again, I will say, like I did in my other video, if this was based solely off of the brightness factor and the bright scenes, Samsung is getting slaughtered by Hisense because they balance every aspect of a bright picture flawlessly. I will give them that. I don't have a single complaint because I have peak highlights that don't clip, but they're bright enough to give you that impact only where the highlight hits. And then the entire background is dark and rich, where Samsung is over brightening buildings. They're over brightening. That's just their trick. They over brighten everything to give you that impact. And while yes, it's impactful, and if you're not comparing it, you'll never notice. But if you're comparing, you're gonna notice, and it's very clear the depth and all this stuff is happening a bit better in these bright scenes on the Hisense. And that's where I kind of come in like, hey, there's something happening on the Hisense. It's a lot more than what anyone is telling you. It's a very special TV, and you might want to give it your time. Because if you do, you only stand to gain from that. You know what I mean? And that's where, again, I think transparency is the most important part of this entire ordeal. Because you're going to hear from a ton of creators. I'm not naive to that fact. But as you hear from them, you also have to make sure that what they're saying is actually truthful and they're not just selling you just to sell you, because that can happen too. Frankly, I think anyone who is buying any of these ultra expensive TVs are kind of doing themselves a disservice this year, because we do have TVs that are this strong coming out of the mid-range. Not the ultra high-end, not the elite, the mid-range. So again, you don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be middle class to have really nice things anymore. And it used to be that that was the case. Like, unless you were middle class, you weren't getting a good TV, which I've always tongue-in-cheek had a feeling about that, because I feel like we work hard for our money too, the rest of us. So why are you going to class gate it? Why are you going to say I need to have, $1,000 of disposable income before I get something that I deserve, which is a good picture? Because make no mistake, I don't care if you come in at even $200. You should have a good picture. Even if it's not the best picture on the market, for the money that you are paying, you should have a brilliant picture. And I find more often than not, companies find a way not to give you that brilliant picture. But Hisense is like, hey, we got depth in spades. Look at all that depth we're going to give you for $700. I mean, you're talking about the S95F. Now, I'll go ahead and lower down the contrast, okay? Because, I mean, it's looking a little ridiculous for Samsung. I'm not going to lie. So I'll go in and I'll lower it down a little bit just so we can, I think right about there. That'll be where I call it right there. I think it looks good there. So we'll leave it there for now. Okay? I mean, you see what I mean? Like, even if I try to make the darker scenes look better, Hisense has depth in spades in the brighter scenes. So that's where it's kind of difficult, because it's like, I know Samsung has color. I know they have brightness. I know they have good contrast. They have a great gaming setup. But images like this is where Samsung, that's their strong suit. Coming out of black, out of dark. And a lot of content comes out of dark, a lot. And that's why I can't give the win to the Hisense. Now, if we're talking just pure feelings, Hisense is the MVP in my book, because they're doing way more with way less. And if they had the same thing that Samsung had, it would be a no contest right now. That's saying a lot. And the fact that they're not rocking a QD OLED panel and they're giving you this kind of picture, it says a whole hell of a lot. To me personally, again, it is impressive that a QD OLED looks fantastic. I'm not taking that away from the QD OLED. But again, 9 times out of 10, I feel like I have to grab my remote for the Samsung and try to lower that contrast, because it is just too damn high. It's just too bright. It over brightens a lot. Skin tones on the Hisense look brilliant. A lot looks really good. And I find my eye gravitate over to that Hisense a lot. And I mean an awful lot. Where, again, Samsung, especially the S95F, it leaves me grabbing for my remote more often than anything else. And I don't like that feeling. Because, again, you're paying all this money. It should just be as brilliant as it is on the Hisense. And it's almost such a joke, because I'm literally treating the Hisense like a reference monitor, where I'll go back and forth and I'll be like, okay, what's Hisense doing now? Okay, and then I'll go back and I'll jump between multiple examples, trying to find where Hisense can edge out the Sony, or where Sony could edge out the Hisense. And more often than not, I find that the Hisense is just stellar for the price. It is. Even if Samsung pulls ahead in one category or another, I'm always realistic about it too. And I'm like, okay, well, given what we have to work with, I mean, it only makes sense that Samsung would pull ahead to the extent that it did. So what I'll do now, since it crashed on me, I'll go back into my media player and we'll go back to the footage that we have and try to show you some more examples before really bringing it home with some final thoughts here. But I think, again, it's pretty clear. I think what's going on. Hisense made a damn good TV, and even if they're not gonna like clean sweep everybody this year, which they're not gonna clean sweep everybody. You gotta be honest about that, right? I think, again, when you look at examples, just visual examples, it's clear that Hisense is doing good. I know a lot of people wanted some gaming examples, so here's some footage from my PlayStation 5, just to give you an idea. Like, even in a game like Final Fantasy 7. I think it's like, no, it's just Final 7. It's Final Fantasy 7 and Rebirth Integrate or something. I don't fucking remember the name. It's Final Fantasy 7, the remake. But look at that. It looks really, really good. Very solid. Good highlights. But remember what I told you earlier, where I said out of black or near black images is where it struggles? This is one of those examples, because here you have a low lit scene. There's a lot of low light everywhere, and the Hisense is struggling with contrast now. It leans too much into the brighter scenes, and that's where, if you're a gamer in a scene like this where you're in a tavern, the Hisense is not going to look anywhere near as impressive as the QD OLED. The QD OLED is going to be crystal clear, glorious, gorgeous. Hisense is going to be very bright and beautiful, but I mean, at what expense? And again, you can always make the Samsung brighter. It's just, you kind of have to understand that you're also going to be missing out on some aspects of picture quality. So I'll put it right about here. I think that'll be good enough, and we'll call it a day right there. And ta-da. I mean, both are a good picture. Both have a lot of contrast, but Samsung does give you a more consistent experience. And that's what I'd say about Samsung when we, again, compare them to Hisense, because, again, Hisense is just not the best in this low light scene. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking at the little girl here, but the faces are just so believable on the Samsung that it's like, damn, that's a really crystal clear, tack sharp picture. And the Hisense introduces two things that makes it just terrible. In this example, a lot of red in the shadows and a lot of haze because of the low native contrast ratio that local dimming is trying to correct. And while the local dimming is stellar, it can only do so much when it's literally trying to cover up all the gray black of the native contrast ratio. So that is your downside comparatively to a flagship television. But again, I don't think anybody is going to really care it's $700 because you usually get way, way worse than this for that price. But if we're being fair, this is why you pay the extra money for the more expensive television, so you don't run into those issues. But again, I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with the way Tifa looks in this example on either TV or Cloud or, any of the characters in Final Fantasy. I frankly think it looks great. I like the way Hisense is doing skin tones. It's really a sight for sore eyes. A lot of highlight detail, very highlight rich, but those black levels in the shadows, that's the one thing that really is bugging me with this TV. If I had to pick a negative comparatively. So again, continuing with the image comparison, you can see what I mean when I say there's a lot of depth on the Hisense. There's just too many examples where it does have a very strong contrast and a very alluring picture where it looks like you're looking through it versus at it like the Samsung. And the Samsung is just too bright for its own good. Like what I've found, and I'm not joking, and I need to show this off in this video, the only thing I found to really fix the Samsung is like, if you want to max out the brightness, okay, you can do that, but you have to lower the contrast to a disgusting degree. I found you got to lower it to like 6. That's where contrast has to be lowered because it's just too fucked up. It's just too bright and overly done. Now, when you do that, clarity comes through. You see a lot more details like now, and it looks absolutely beautiful and fantastic, and that's great. But again, you do have to take that hit on the overall brightness too, and it's bipolar as hell. It's a very hard TV to adjust. I'm having a terrible time on the Samsung S95F finding its like peak performance because it's very difficult. Another thing to note is Samsung also has, I don't know when it's going to come to the S95F, but they have a brand new feature called per color adjustment. So if you are somebody that has previously taken your TV offline, I did want to at least let you know that that is something that they are rolling out. I have it on my Samsung S95D, but the 95F doesn't have it yet. It's one of the best features I've ever seen in a television because literally per color, they'll give you a stimulus of 50%, 75%, and 100%, and you can adjust the color on those levels of brightness, essentially, to give yourself the total range of control over the luminosity of the television. When you make custom color, it's brilliant and it adds a ton of contrast and clarity. So if it does roll out to the S95F, then yeah, then it will probably need to be a reshoot. So that I did want to make this video with that caveat that like Samsung has something already in the works that is going to be fantastic. And if colors already look this good, using something like the native color space, imagine if you use custom color dialed the hell in to that level of specificity. It's gonna be incredible, and I'm excited for it to come to a brighter TV like this that has over brightening of colors, because that's one thing that this TV is plagued with, over brightening of colors. As I mentioned earlier, like it just over brightens everything. But again, as you can clearly see, it does look beautiful. The blue right now on the Samsung, glorious. It's absolutely wonderful, tremendous. And again, all shades of color, three-dimensionality. Now it comes through a lot more that we lowered the contrast. So the moral of the story with the Samsung S95F, lower your contrast to like 6. And then the picture will start popping off the screen a lot better. That's just a little pro tip. Now, that's not giving you the whole sauce as to what I made to how I got the image to look like this. But essentially, that's one of the big things that you can do to just help get a little bit better of a picture. But the clarity on the Hisense is like glorious as well too. And it's crystal clear, like very crystal-like. You like see this tack sharp, very pure image, and it feels like you bought something way above $700. I'll tell you that for sure. Now, I want to show, let's say, this demo, because this is probably one of the more important ones to show color differences. As you can clearly see, Hisense kind of sticks to an incorrect shade of blue, where it's just all one blue, where the Samsung has that accurate shade of blue right there, where it's got more of the green hues in the water. That's the correct shade. Now, the thing that really sucks is that, again, most people probably aren't going to see this. This is only for a professional that knows what they're looking for. Like the sky right now looks better on the Samsung. So these little nuance differences also contributed to Hisense not bagging the win over the Samsung. And again, it was by a hair that determination was made, because again, if it just had a little bit more of Samsung's qualities in some areas, it would have won. But as you can clearly see, it does have a beautiful picture. Not as nice as the Samsung in this example. Samsung's still winning. You got beautiful warm tones, beautiful depth, beautiful clarity, all that. But again, Hisense wasn't too far off. And I think in this example, you can kind of see what I'm talking about without me sounding like an alien. Their colors are very similar here. I think Hisense has a better brightness for sure. In this example, very beautiful brightness. Skin tone slightly better on the Hisense, more accurate on the Samsung. So again, there's more pop on the Hisense is what I mean in that regard. It's just more aesthetically pleasing, grabs the eye faster. And that's the thing, the Hisense is a very poppy picture. It grabs you. You don't have to wait a whole lot of time before you see like what's going on the Hisense. Or on the Sony, it's like that a bit more. You're gonna struggle a bit more, and that's just honest, right? To find like that wow factor with the TV. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to get around. Trying to always make the Samsung look better. But again, I feel like, again, more often than not, I was grabbing my remote and trying to get the Samsung to look more like the Hisense in some areas. So that is something to mention as well. Ultimately, the Hisense obviously pulled ahead. So, I mean, you have to call it for what it is when that happens, right? Again, feeling-wise, I feel like the Hisense is a winner. And I want to give them the win. But ethically, honestly, when we talk about what TVs have to offer, I can't give the Hisense the win because it does have out-of-black issues. Like, coming out of black is just too weak. Too weak. It does a lot that it shouldn't do. And I think that's one of the biggest downsides to this TV, where, again, it normally would be buttoned up if it had deeper black levels. I mean, again, that's my biggest problem with it. But it's nearly identical, though, as far as contrast and depth. The Samsung now pulling ahead for depth. Again, if you take a hit on the brightness for the Samsung, colors and everything do start to pop a lot more, but Hisense really is not far behind. And that's, again, the impressive and scary part even for me, looking at what Hisense is able to do at the $700 range. I've not seen this before. And feel free to chime off in the comment section if you know of a $700 TV that performs like a QD OLED as you watch it next to a flagship QD OLED with all the same level of contrast. Look at this cactus right now. They're hard to distinguish. I mean, these TVs are becoming very difficult to tell apart now that we're getting into more geometry-based kind of content. And again, that's how you could tell too that there's just something special happening with the AI this year in the Hisense. The AI super resolution, the AI contrast, it's all brilliant. And again, this isn't giving Hisense credit that they haven't earned or putting them on a pedestal or any of that. It's just telling you like, hey, Hisense has come a very long way since their inception. And I think you might want to stop turning a blind eye to them or snubbing them at the least if you've been doing that, because there's a load of picture quality, as you see, that competes with flagship level TVs. The S95F is a flagship. And even though Hisense doesn't have the accuracy where the green hues start being introduced, you have to have that to have accuracy. It's like 90% there. You know what I mean? And if you're going to be 90% flagship level and you're not going to even approach 90% of a flagship's price, That's, come on now. You got to be real with yourself on that one, because that's just too good to pass up. At least for me personally, because I love a good deal. And it really is a good deal that they're giving all that away. I'll show some more image quality here before, again, just trying to wrap it up and just tell you it's a great TV either way around. Both TVs are really good, but this seems Hisense caught my eye more. I mean, right now Hisense is still catching my eye more. So again, in those brighter scenes, Hisense can get scary three-dimensional and look a lot like, again, like old school Sony, if you will, where it was just this really tack sharp picture with a lot of dimension to it. That's essentially what I have here. Again, Samsung is doing its thing too. It's very beautiful, very rich color, very gorgeous, separated colors very nicely. But I mean, they are toe to toe. Literally, I don't know what it's going to look like on YouTube, but on my end, they are literally toe-to-toe. And as I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I don't know, man. They're a little way too similar. Too close for comfort, for sure. Too close for comfort, for sure. Because, again, I don't know how else to articulate this or how much more passionately I need to say it. The Hisense is a $700 TV. It's $700. Like, you can't get me to say that and not be impressed by that. Like, that it's got this much depth and quality for $700. Like, that falls under the shut up and take my money. And then the motion, a lot of people ask how's the motion. It's smoother than the flagship. Like, it has less jerks and less jitters as they do panning shots. Slow motion panning is usually a big no-no on a lot of TVs that are budget TVs. This one handles it like a champ. It's like, yeah, okay, you're panning motion slowly, and what? I can handle that like a champ. You're not even going to trip me up even a little bit. And I think that is where it gets extremely impressive, because you don't really expect it to have that kind of quality. It is getting edged out in this example, though. So again, it's not all examples where color and contrast and all that is a win on Hisense, as I've mentioned. There has to be something that the Samsung does right. Otherwise, I wouldn't have named it the winner. But again, I seriously need to drive home that was by a very small margin. This will probably be the last example that I show you guys, because I think you guys get the point. Again, contrast on the Hisense, tremendous, but the Samsung can get there too, but that's just so much contrast that you just are not getting. Now, I think my camera is over brightening it just a wee bit, so we'll lower it down by like a hair or two, just so you can see what I'm seeing on my end. Hopefully this translates, honestly, because I don't ever know what it's actually going to look like at the end of the day when it's all said and done. So hopefully I'm representing it the way I see it. Look at the motion of the Hisense right now. Very clean. It's like less motion blur is the thing I would say. Like when it's moving, I notice less motion blur in the grass, where on the Samsung there's a bit more of it. Again, it's weird that it has that kind of quality. Now the Samsung is pulled way ahead of the freaking Hisense. The Hisense now I'm seeing where it's a $700 TV by comparison in that one example, because that was just ridiculous. I mean, I'll run that back so you can see the contrast. And this is what I mean. Like the Hisense or the Samsung S95F is bipolar. It really is. It like has contrast, and then sometimes it doesn't have contrast. They really need to figure out their algorithm and their processing, because I feel like this is a software issue, honestly. Because there's no way you could give me contrast like this. Look at all the separation of every geometry, like spheres, rectangles, or ovals, rectangles, all of that. You have isolation of geometry intelligently, which makes this look flat by comparison to that. But then in some scenes it will look flat. Like how? Literally how? And that's where I know it's a balancing issue, and there's something going on. Like right now, it looks amazing. Both of them. They both look great. I mean, it's a strong showing. It's a damn strong showing. But again, ultimately, the winner of this comparison is going to be the Samsung S95F. But damn, was it just barely. They fought for their lives. They really threw blows. But I think more than anything, this should truly be a showcase for the Hisense more than anything, that it is on that flagship level. Even though it's nowhere near a flagship, it's a mid-range. And I think that right there is the most impressive part. But that being said, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 Brand in Honesty. If you have questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, make sure you drop them in the comments down below. If you want to see anything else between these two TVs, let me know. The S95 is my personal model that I have as my everyday television. So again, feel free to let me know if there's something that you want to see on it, so you can assess how contrast is. I mean, the contrast does pull ahead on the S95F, even though it has a matte finish screen. So for some people saying like, oh, well, The matte finish screen kills contrast. Clearly not. I've been saying that as well. It is one of the flattest TVs out of the box that I've ever seen though, which looks absolutely horrible. I'm not a fan of the out of the box experience. But as I talk about like brightness, I mean, in contrast, like now, Hisense has more contrast. They trade back and forth to a very equivalent level until you get to dark scenes, and that's where ultimately Hisense does take that L. But ultimately speaking, maybe not for you. And that's what I want to hear in the comments down below. What did you think about this comparison? Honestly, without any of the bullshit that people would like to say, your honest opinion. Let me know in the comments down below. And always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later.